more.
Well, welcome to another rousing edition of Hey, it's the Luskos. My fearful co-pilot, who's not present apparently at the moment,
I'm right here.
is Jennifer Lusko, and my name's Levi Lusko, and together we form
The Luskos.
The Luskos. Mm-hmm. And we're grateful that you're here this beautiful May 13th for another episode.
It's May 13th? Oh, sheesh.
Sheesh, Magish. What are you expecting it to be?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm really happy, though. I love May.
May
It's your birthday month.
Okay.
It's springtime. Summer's just
it's
around
all
the corner.
sprung. And we hope you're having a good May. May has some very special traditions. My dad told me that May 1st is when you're supposed to put your hummingbird feeders up. That's when you can expect them to be on their way from Mexico, where they migrate to. That has got to be one heck of a commute.
Thank you, Chip Lusko.
For an eeny, meeny little hummingbird. Can you imagine going thousands of miles when you're just like a little tiny helicopter?
It doesn't seem possible.
I filled up our hummingbird feeders, and I can't wait for them to come any day now. I really like it when a hummingbird comes because it's just spellbinding. I don't care who you are, how busy you are, how important you think you are. No one is not impressed by a hummingbird. I mean, come on. Well, that's what you can expect from us here on the Hey, it's the Luskos podcast, friendly neighborhood advice. And as, of course, you saw from the title of the video you clicked or the podcast you selected, unless you were in such a hurry to listen, you didn't even read it, in which case I would say that's amazing that sight unseen, you would just trust us so implicitly.
Wow. I wonder if that's true.
Today on the podcast, we have the one, the only, Pastor Craig Groeschel, and the crowd goes wild. Craig and Amy Groeschel are the founders and lead pastors of Life.Church, amazing move of God, rocking the world. They have written so many books and are such special people. And Pastor Craig has his own podcast, the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast, which if you don't listen to, I don't even know what to do with you because it is so dang good. If you haven't ever listened, it's great. We reference quite a few of our favorite episodes in this conversation that we had. He was gracious enough to give us so much time. And what an incredible person he is. He has learned so much over the years, much of it the hard way, as he would be quick to say, that has turned him into one of the foremost authorities on leadership and, in my mind, preaching today.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
His new book is Winning the War in Your Mind, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, which released back in February. It's a prolific book. He's very vulnerable in it, talks about many of his struggles and mistakes and what he's learned the hard way that can go right in your mind, that will help it go right in your life.
Yeah.
What do you love about Pastor Craig?
I love how diligent and structured he is. I mean, the way he eats and has his rhythm of the day, it's all very inspiring.
To me, it's the intensity. I've never met a more intense person, a more person who is focused and goal-oriented. And man, this guy is focused and intense and switched on. But at the same time, I don't know anybody in my life who is kinder and is faster to respond to text messages. If I reach out to him, I mean, he's right there with encouragement, with a thought. If I need someone to pray with me, believe God for something. I mean, it's just that combination is so beautiful. Lots of people I know who are so focused, can't be bothered with the little stuff, and yet he remembers.
Yeah. Well, in conversation too, we'll be talking, if we've gone on double date with he and his wife, and he'll just turn to me and be like, just ask a question, where, not that not a lot of people do that, but I just think he's very just thoughtful and kind and personable and
super socially smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Geez, you guys are gonna love this conversation. So hope you do, and we'll see you next week, kids. Oh my gosh, the one and only Pastor Craig Groeschel.
Pastor Craig.
There he is. Look at that.
Hey.
That's a beautiful man, Jenny.
Thank you so much for being here with us. What do I say to that? Yeah.
I'm
very good
missing
looking.
Amy right now. Where is my bride?
Where is
with
Amy?
me?
She would agree with me.
Both of you
Jenny
so
didn't even agree
much.
with me. Amy would have said, yeah, there is a beautiful man.
No, I love you guys both so much, but I love you better when it's the four of us.
I know.
We had so many good times
Same.
together. Yeah.
We do need Amy Groeschel on the podcast.
She is somewhere. She might be walking by. If she walks by this way,
Grab her.
I might flag her over.
Yeah, do it.
See if I can grab her.
Yeah, because you're in your house right now. I recognize that sitting room. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I've never been, but I have been invited.
Wow. Just coming out right there.
I can't believe you even brought that up because
it's touchy.
It's
Pastor
all
Levi
on me.
Stayed in my house
multiple times. Yeah. Like I pretty much am like
never come. You go almost everywhere with them, but you've never come here.
Oh,
ever.
Honestly.
it's so true.
You come with me to Alabama. You come with me to all these terrible places, and you've never. No, Alabama's not a terrible place. Let me just.
I have a hairdryer in the guest room now too. After Levi told me last time.
Yeah, but I recommended a flat iron. I said Jenny won't come until there's a flat iron. Yeah. Well, it was so funny. Amy goes.
See us.
Amy goes, how is it staying there? Be honest. We just redid the guest room. Is there anything I could make it better? And I was like, well, since you're asking, a blow dryer would make it better because then, people can blow dry their hair. And she's like, that's amazing. What else? And so I said, well, if girls come, a flat iron might be nice. And so they're decking it out.
Good one.
Yeah. It's pimp my guest room. It's going to be my side hustle when the ministry doesn't work out. It'll just help people configure guest rooms.
Yeah,
you've got a lot of side hustles, that's for sure.
Yes.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, Craig, because you are, in my opinion, just an interesting specimen of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
If there ever was one, it is you. And so many different components and facets that fascinate me about you. But I thought we would start out talking about I saw a Bigfoot or a loved one just go by in the background.
It could have been a Bigfoot.
I just saw this person running really fast, like they were trying to clear the.
It was Steven.
It's like, oh, Dad's on the interview. I got to run across the hallway. That was amazing. Well, I thought we would talk just to start out with a little bit about just workouts. You and I have shared a lot of great times in our lives just in the gym working out. You're someone who inspires me when it comes to fitness. Can you kind of tell me the arc of your love relationship with working out? Where did that begin? Was it always a priority, or was there a certain point or time when it became something important to you?
Yeah, so I was an athlete in high school and college, and so just being active was always a part of my life. And I had a secret fear of being one of those has-been that just ended up way being out of shape. And so early on after college, I thought I will keep working out. And what's funny, Levi, is that I worked out really hard and I kept eating whatever I wanted. And when I was about 40-ish, I just saw the Bigfoot go by again. I'm not sure who it was, but when I was about 40-ish or so, Amy took a picture of me one time at the beach and I was like, oh, what happened? And I had this real big dad bod. And so for me, it was more of the culmination, not just of working out, but also trying to eat healthy, that in my early 40s became both a passion, and not just from a fitness standpoint, but to me, it's kind of spiritual, meaning what I really want to do is I want to honor God in every single area of my life. And the physical end is a very important component to everything. Andy Stanley used to always say, you can't have a spiritual ministry without a physical body. He was quoting somebody, but that always struck me. So I really just started studying what do you put into it? How do you maximize it in order to be, at whatever age I am, the best potential physical shape I can be, both because it feels good to be healthy and also just because it helps really produce maximum impact in ministry by being, in best shape as you can be.
That's so inspiring and hopeful, because to having had start when you're in your early 40s,
mm-hmm.
That's just helpful to know, like, okay, well, you can start anytime. Like, you don't have to be starting when you're in your 20s or 30s. Like, that's probably good, but you can start anytime to take care of yourself and eat well and do physical exercise. That's just brings hope to me.
Now, did you experiment with different diets or forms of eating? And that's interesting that made a bigger difference to you than, because you were always working out constantly. This just was the big change of what you put into your body by way of fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the biggest change. Most people always start with what's your workout, and I kind of want to say, let's start with what's your diet, because that really is incredibly important. And oddly enough, Levi, as you know, like a lot of our friends do like 21-day fasts at the beginning of the year, and so we did that too for years. And I would not always do just a real strict fast. A lot of times I would do, just eat certain foods, and I found myself feeling better during the fast, and then I'd go back to my normal. And when I say eat anything, I mean I ate, like nonstop pizza, cheeseburger, French fries, malts, chips and salsa, sweet tea, donuts, cinnamon rolls, anything and everything. I ate that, and it didn't start catching up with me until it did.
Wow.
And then I'd go back to that diet, and then I wouldn't feel as good. And so in the beginning stage, it was more of a, hey, why, if I'm eating this better food, I feel better, why am I not doing that all the time? And then the next odd thing came, and this is embarrassing even to say, but there's this guy named Bart at the gym who didn't seem to work out nearly as hard as I did, and he just was always in good shape. And I said, what am I doing wrong? I'm working out hard. And he said, well, tell me what you're eating. And when I did, he started laughing. And so he started helping me. And then, I don't really, I don't feel qualified to teach on nutrition, but what I do feel qualified is on my own body. I've experimented so much with when I eat, what I eat, how much I eat, what types of clean food I eat, that and my diet is ridiculously strict, and people think, isn't that boring and don't you hate it? And for me, it's like, no, I love it. There's freedom in it, and I have fun with it. I look forward to it. I find great food that I enjoy every time. I love it no matter what, and it's not restrictive. It's empowering. It's freeing to me.
That's
now,
amazing.
when you made those initial changes, you were pastoring the church, Life.Church. You at that point, how many years into Life.Church would that have been?
So that would have been 12, 13 years into it.
Okay, so did that diet carry over? Because you played college tennis. Is that what you were eating during those years?
Yeah, those years, you could eat whatever you wanted. And we didn't know any better back in the 80s. You'd go and do Hardee's or Taco Bell or Taco Bueno or McDonald's right before a big match. And we just didn't know any better. That was even back in the era when I played tennis in college. They said, don't do weights back then. You don't do any. And so there's just real different philosophies today. And I just, ate whatever I wanted, and we'd sing songs around here. Amy would always push me to eat better, and the kids would sing, Mama buys good food, but Daddy buys great food. And I'd go buy all the junk food.
Hilarious.
Wow.
Well, now that you mention it,
funny.
it is interesting. Even if you look at leading men, and I'm sure we could find parallels in actresses as well. But if you look at leading men in movies from the 80s versus the average movie these days, and what physical shape they get into, just even for a normal role, not even like could be a superhero, it is a very different paradigm physically. And if you look at professional athletes from the tennis world back then, compare them now, it's just the science and really the standard and the for better or for worse, what is expected of the shape you're going to get into really has changed from then till now pretty violently.
It has. Yeah, tennis is almost a different sport than it used to be. It's the types of people that win now are often very different style athletes than before.
Now, what did you learn from playing college tennis and getting yourself psyched up for matches, et cetera, that has translated into what you do now in preaching and in speaking?
This make you laugh, but I learned how to lose. So I was like the worst player on a really good NAIA team. And by NAIA, we're the top in the nation. And so, good NAIA team or player can beat a lot of the best NCAA players. So I had two doubles partners that turned pro. And so that it was that level of good. And I was not bad at all. I was on the bottom of the team, barely hanging on for my life. I lost my first match out 6-0, 6-0. And so it was, I really did. I learned to lose. I learned to fail. And then just learn to find different gears of not giving up, because in the first year, I broke so many rackets, embarrassed, cried my way home because I really and truly was outclassed early on. And then, by my junior year, put together, pretty good growth spurt and ended up having some winning seasons. And so it's kind of the ability to be humble, to fail with grace, to overcome, to stick to it. But and then the teamwork end of it's just, it's irreplaceable in any field, sport, competition, band, anything you do with other people where you learn to play together. That's super valuable in every aspect of life, of course.
Wow. Did you have any hopes of continuing to play tennis outside of college?
No, my doubles partner did. He did, he got some ATP points and he was way, way better than I was. He played number 1. I played number 4. I was just a good compliment for him, but I was never, ever in the, it was never possible for me to go on beyond that.
Have you guys played against each other?
Oh, that would be a very generous way to describe what happened when I stepped onto a court with Pastor Craig Groeschel. Played. I don't think I got one serve. I stuck my racket out in high hopes that I might get a serve. He's playing at a very different level than me.
You look so ridiculously cool with your headband.
I know, right?
Long socks on, and I mean, you looked. I wish I could just
awesome.
Put a photo of you up. It was really sharp.
My goal has always been to dress better than I play, and I'm succeeding in that swimmingly, Jennifer.
You were naturally. You got some good gifts.
But you love it.
Here's the thing.
You're passionate about it.
I disproportionately like tennis to how good I'm at it. But I have improved since then.
Yeah.
I've been working at it.
Just stick with it. That's all that matters, man. It's a great, one of a lot of good sports you can keep playing at this age. And
yeah. Now, I can't remember, you one-handed backhand or two-handed backhand?
I'm one-handed backhand.
Oh, there you go. Like Fed.
Yeah. So that also tells the era I was in that I had a two-handed backhand, and in college they switched me to one because that was better. And now they would never do that. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's funny how things like that, change in sports and church philosophy and physical care, everything. The era you were raised often determines your mindset, and it may or may not be right.
Totally. Oh my gosh. That is a really good
Family
point.
of origin, all that stuff.
Yeah. Everything.
Now, when you mentioned a minute ago, really strict, and I've seen you eat, but just for the benefit of those listening in, is there a really, you don't really have a diet that's like, I'm not paleo or keto or this. Is there, how would you categorize the way your approach to nutrition nowadays?
I would say, and I would say this like sincerely, I don't recommend this for anybody. I'm not qualified to give any kind of comment, but for me, it would be not just low carb, but strategic carb, meaning what type of carb and when. And then I'd say like strategic carb, high protein, and then with a lot of green in there as well. And so, but it's how I feel best. It's what helps me exercise my hardest, sleep my best, wake up recovered. And it's with, I've probably been, really dialing it in with small changes for over 10 years now. So it's either it works really well, or at least I think it works really well, and either one works really well for me, right?
That's amazing.
Even if I just believe in it, that matters, I think.
Yes.
Hey, placebo's a real, man. Give me all the placebos if they're helping. Yeah.
Right. Do you drink coffee?
I don't. I did. I had my last cup of coffee was on my honeymoon with Amy when she said, "Would you drink a cup of coffee with me for our honeymoon?" I said, "Sure, I will for our honeymoon." And that was my last cup of coffee.
Wow.
My first and my last, yeah.
First and your last on your honeymoon.
Was it the taste you didn't like?
I'll do anything for her.
Did you not like the impact of the caffeine on your system?
No, I like caffeine. I don't. I drink a little powdered supplemental caffeine in the morning. I don't know why. I don't like to be dependent on something that I feel like I have to have. And I've got a real addictive personality. And so I would be one of those guys, I think, if I started where I'd be like, I need my coffee. And they don't want to be that. So I try to avoid things that I might need to depend on. And I think I get hooked on things pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Jenny's off the coffee train at the moment.
I am. And I feel like I've been sleeping better and waking up. Like I've been every day waking up before my alarm goes off, and that never happens. So I don't know, but I'm doing that right now. But it's hard because Levi makes coffee. And I don't really love coffee or hate coffee, but Levi makes it every morning. So there are just days where I'm just like automatically drinking it, but I just haven't been doing it for a little while. I
am not addicted. I could stop at any time that I want to, Craig. Now, don't dare take my coffee away from me. But I am doing less coffee, and I'm not doing coffee later in the day. for the same
That's
reasons.
smart.
Now, you mentioned sleep. You both did. What have you learned that's helped you when it comes to your sleep hygiene or your sleep habits?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I don't think people talk about enough. So I don't know how true it is. It appears to be true, but the whole don't look at screens an hour before you go to bed. I was having some problems sleeping and my mind would race. And so I really try to limit the screen time, both, any kind of TV or phone. And I think that helps a lot, both from probably the blue light part that triggers your brain, it's time to be awake, eliminating that, I think probably helps. And then also just being engaged in anything that feels work related. And that could be social media because it's still, that is social, but for us, it also feels a little bit work related,
right.
Or emails or text, or even scrolling through the news and looking at something there's just nothing on my phone that is going to help me sleep better an hour before I go to sleep. And so I try to limit that. This helps a lot.
That's good. Do you sleep is your phone in a different room than where you sleep?
It is 100% in a different room. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's important.
I like
good.
that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
Anything else? Any supplement or anything that you found, a special mattress or just anything that's kind of like that you sleep better with?
I bought one of these ridiculously stupid mattresses. This guy that sold me you sleep for 50% of your life. And so you should pay all this money. And now I'm probably going to get a different one because I don't like it. But, so little things, this sounds ridiculous, but I drink so much water. And so I drink. And then I really phase that off later in the day because I don't want to get up to the bathroom so many times. So that's one little thing. And then I'll do a I work out in the afternoon typically. I will do a pre-workout, but I won't do one ever past 2:00 because I don't want the caffeine still going to be in my system. I also stop eating earlier in the night. And for whatever reason, I think that helps me go to bed earlier. And then I wake up hungry earlier in the morning. And then I do something that a doctor recommended. I can't even think what it's called, but it's a stress reducer, some kind of a natural supplement that I take. And that's about it.
Do you have a time in mind? Like when you go to sleep, they're like, I'm going for this many hours, or how do you think about what a successful night's sleep looks like to you?
No, I measure it by bathroom times. If I don't, and you got to remember I'm 53, which is, that's part of it when you get older. And so if like last night was a one-nighter, that was pretty good, meaning I slept almost the whole night and that was great. And then I like you, Jenny, my alarm rarely wakes me up. And so that's a really good sign to me whenever I wake up. My alarm is just a safety alarm. And it's one that, maybe once every 3 months wakes me up. And so I feel like that's good when I'm waking up naturally.
Oprah Winfrey said that she can put a number in her head and then she will wake up at that time. And what she has chosen for years to pick her number to be is 6:02. And that with no alarm, she picks 6:02, she thinks it, and that's when she wakes up. Is it something like that? Or is it?
Wow. Magic.
It's not at all that precise. I would be lying to you, but I would say if the alarm set at 6 or 7, either one, I do tend to wake up a few minutes before that alarm goes off, which that's pretty, I almost think it's not good because subconsciously it's almost like you're trying to wake yourself up. But that's Oprah is freaky in a lot of ways. And that's another one of those many ways, right?
Hey, it's an interesting thing to think a time. Well, apparently the Native Americans used to, before raids, they would drink the amount of water that would dictate what time they wanted to be awake. So let's say they wanted to go on a hunt at 3:30, they would drink this much water versus this much, and that was how they set their alarm based on when they would be awake to go to the bathroom.
Oh.
So
yeah, I could totally do that. I promise.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Hey,
now,
speaking of that, you want to hear something really freaky?
Yes.
This is just you would like this. So I've got 2 daughters that have had babies, Mandy and James. She's my second daughter. So their baby's like, I don't know, 2 months old. This baby is potty trained.
No.
Yes.
wow. How'd they do that?
Yes. Speaking of Native Americans, whatever. So evidently that just triggered me, the whole bathroom. And so evidently in some parts of the world, it's relatively common to potty train your baby. And so Mandy is just unique enough to have studied that.
Mandy's
and
amazing.
I don't know how they do it, but they put their little baby on the little baby potty, and this little baby goes. I mean, like, it's freaky.
Whoa.
Freaky.
I've heard of this.
Has she
I've
done?
Never tried it,
Now,
though.
Mandy has a very fun social media follow, very encouraging, uplifting, lots of hacks. I just saw her do a vitamin hack, how to swallow a bunch of vitamins. I never knew you put your chin down to swallow vitamins more. I would always think you put your chin up, but she just put like 12 vitamins in her hand. And then she's like, hey, do you ever have a problem with vitamins? She puts all these in her mouth, gets a little bit of water. She goes, the trick is put your chin down. So I, of course, had to go grab my vitamins, and it worked. Your chin up, it makes it harder for your esophagus to engage. Your chin down, it opens everything up.
No.
Well, I didn't know that.
My
I didn't
life
know
has
that either.
changed.
Yeah,
So-
I'll try that. But you can look it up sometime.
You got to get Mandy
babies.
to post how she potty trained the baby on her social media.
I'm not even sure she's public with that, but she is now. So
Well, you just committed her.
Yeah, you did.
You outed her on, hey, it's the Luskos.
She's like, oh,
I've
Dad, I don't do that
seen
anymore.
it with my own eyes.
If
It's a
anyone's
real
listening,
thing.
it's what, at Mandy Meehan? Is that her handle?
At Mandy Meehan, yep.
E-E, 2 E's, right?
Meehan, yep.
She's a fun follow. God's got his hand on her life. She's got such a sweet spirit. She's really
Yeah.
easy
Thank
to
you.
listen to. So make sure you go out and listen to her there.
All my kids love you guys, by the way. All 6 of
Aw.
them.
You guys got amazing kids.
Yeah.
When are you going to invite Pastor Levi to preach again?
Honestly, I
Bring
keep asking the same thing.
Livy. I know.
I know. I want to get you guys out to Montana as well.
Yeah. How many times have you preached for me?
Well,
We
we batched it.
How many
So
times I
two-
preached for you? Oh yeah. Probably.
Wait,
like
no.
8-1.
Yeah,
Yeah, 8-1.
you did 2 messages when you
8-1.
came, and I did 2 messages when I came, and I've done 2 visits for you, and you've done 2 for me. One for how many times
But
have you
we
been here?
did also.
I've been there once.
Okay, we're gonna get you invited
Oh
again.
yeah.
Pastor
you did
Craig Groeschel, get him on the
You
calendar.
did family reunion for me, and you've done at least 4 weekend messages.
Okay, so you're more efficient than I am too. You're better with the ask because there's like layers to it. You're coming, but we did find time for a sauna in between all those various messages.
We did, yes.
That is,
Yes.
and how's your life? How's your relationship with the sauna been lately? Your heat therapy?
It's very intimate. Yes,
You still liking the heat?
I like the heat. Yes.
How many times a week are you in that sauna?
I'll do on a good week 4 times, on a bad week 2. Yeah,
And are you still counting droplets?
I 100% count droplets. Yes.
So
What?
he told me this, if right or wrong, that he stays in the sauna till he sweats 100 drops, which
No,
tells
it's
you
way-
everything
way-
you need to know about Craig Groeschel to know
Wow.
that.
It's way more now that I'm consistent. So now that it gets going, so now I'm 500 drops. Yeah.
500 drops. You're up to 500 drops. Now, here's the thing about
Wait.
sauna.
It's only
Counts
because my
them?
sweat production is increased.
Your body
But see-
responds to increased stress by sweating faster and more voluminously.
Oh.
Yeah. But so somebody, like, there are people who could do 500 drops in probably a third of the time that I do. It takes me a while to get them going, but I have to, I could demonstrate, but you have to kind of lean forward, put your hands on, so your sweat actually drops down. And I like to sit there and watch it. Like, there's 1, and then you wait, there's 2. And then it goes, 78, 9, 80, 1, 82, 80. Oh, that's probably 3, 4. So I like
Oh my
to count.
gosh.
That's
How
it
long?
tells me how
a
long.
touch of the OCD
How
on
long
that.
does that take?
I bet you if I'm in there in a hot start, I bet you it's 20 minutes, 25 at the most.
Wow.
It's funny though, the more you go, the faster you start sweating,
Yes,
and the more
yes.
your body just really is efficient
Gets
with it.
used to it.
What do
Yeah.
you find if someone were to ask you what's the benefits to you? What different categories would you put them in?
I would say that the research tells you that's, you'll sleep better, stress reduction. I like the fact that I've got no phone, nobody ringing, knocking for just a little bit of time, especially when Amy can go with me. We enjoy the talking time together. And it's just another one of the things in my mind that's a small push. And I like, any kind of sustained success or impact is generally a result of multiple small sustained pushes. And so that's a constant rhythm in my life that I believe has some health benefits, has some emotional benefits, has some spiritual benefits of just sitting there talking to God, doing nothing for a while. And I like the consistency of things like that. It doesn't have to be that. It could be someone walks. It could be they do, prayer time during planks or whatever, but it's just something consistent. That's one of my little small consistent things.
I love that.
I love that.
I love that prayer during a plank. I've never prayed during a plank except to pray, please let this timer run out faster.
Have you prayed during a cold
Yeah.
plunge?
No.
Yeah, the longest plank I've ever done was with you, though.
5 minutes? Is that a 5-minute one?
I think that was the longest one we did.
That was the
Wow.
big
Did a
kick I was
5-minute
on for a while, trying to do a 5-minute plank. That took away my pain in my lower back from back squats or from deadlifts. I had massive deadlift pain in my lower back, but a jiu-jitsu instructor friend told me, just get your plank up. He goes, here's of course what he said. Here's the juke. He goes, your back pain's not from your deadlifts. It's from your weak core. If you get a stronger core, it holds everything together. And sure enough, got my plank up to 5 minutes. He's a sicko though, bro. He does his 5-minute plank in the sauna with 45-pound weight on his lower back. He'll put a weight on his back
crazy.
and then plank it out with that weight on his back.
For 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, torture.
That is crazy. I'm surprised you haven't preached that at somewhere like Passion about the core thing.
I did preach it to our staff. We had a whole staff
He
theme.
actually did a 5-minute plank.
I said, I'm going to do with my mic on in front of our staff at our staff advance. I did a 5-minute plank. And then at the last day.
So much better now. I really do. Now that I know you use that.
That it's been used?
That it feels like the world is right because you use that.
Yeah, because think about this, the corollary to staff, like to being on a staff of any team, anybody listening, what team you're on. If your core is not tight, things ain't right. That's what I said. You got to get that core together. Good. And it's that leadership. And it's as you always say, the leadership, when the leader gets better, everything gets better. And that all comes from that core of who you are.
That's good.
Now, cold, I still have to bug you about cold. Have you been getting any of that cryo stuff at all?
No, once it got really, really cold, I was out. I'm not in the Tebow Luskos league.
Now, have you done cryotherapy though with the actual cryo?
I have never done that. No.
I bet you would like it.
I think you'd like. So, have you ever done
like
a cold
negative
plunge?
200 degrees or something like that?
Yeah, I was probably at about 50 degrees, and that was cold enough for me in water.
Well, that's plenty cold. Tony Robbins starts every single day by jumping into 57-degree water every morning.
Yeah, maybe it was 60 degrees then.
But I'll tell you, 57. You think, oh, that's not that cold. It feels plenty cold. It's your body's 98, so it's going to register cold to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if there's medical benefits to being really cold. It just makes it more disgustingly awful, when you get in it.
Yeah, that's I haven't mastered that yet.
But I did like what he said. He said, I listened to Tony talk about it. He said, when he does that, it's likely to be the worst thing that happens to him all day, and it's out of the way already. And then he said, secondly, every cell in his body's now awake. So, you wait for coffee or this. He's like, no, I'm awake and I'm ready to go. And then he goes, it also teaches me I can activate full strength and energy on command anytime I need to, because I know, look, my body's capable of just going from dead sleep to completely awake.
Dang.
So I like that abrupt intensity.
So he's one of a bunch of people on a long list that I respect that do that, including you and Tebow, and I think Ferris, doesn't he do it too?
Ferris does it, yeah. He's big on it.
Yeah. A lot of people that are high achievers do.
Pastor Stephen, he gets in that cold water.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep bugging you until you come with me into the water.
I've been experimenting with it. It just hasn't stuck. I bet I did a dozen before the ice storm hit, and then I got freaked out.
Wow, that's
you guys
good,
were
though.
without power. How many days was that?
I think we were like 11 days with no power.
It's hard to even imagine.
Gosh.
Yeah.
We've never had a power lost for more than 4 hours in the 15 years that we've lived here. We've heard of it happening here and there, but obviously this place is more built to withstand cold, but trees will get knocked down. And that's like, I think the last time we lost power was actually it's a funny story, early in the pandemic. Remember this? We were starting to hear all this stuff about it. And I was like, I was literally starting to think like, man, I need to go make sure my gas tanks for our generator are full. And so I had gotten the gas tanks out to go fill them up. And then literally all the power went out in our house. And it was, March 20th, pandemic was just going. And I'm like, honey, it's happening. It's happening. Like the power's gone. Turned out a drunk driver, or he wasn't even drunk. He was an old man, and he had veered off the road and off his meds and crashed into a power pole. It had knocked down the lines into the highway. He was stuck in the car. And so I drove to get the gas and ended up seeing this whole scene.
No, but I took a picture of you standing on our front lawn with
the
a
gas cans
can and
something else.
Something else. And it was just like,
It's like
where,
I became
we?
a prepper just for a minute. I had this fleeting moment of like, this is how it all ends, you know?
Well, I was ready because you gave me a straw one time that you can drink water out of anywhere. Like
The life straw.
Yes, a live straw. And I'm not going to name some of the places you can drink water out of, but you can imagine. But
You could drink
any river, any body of standing still water you can drink from.
Oh, 100%. Have you preached with that yet?
No. And I haven't tried it yet
So
either,
I preached
but
for
was
Louis,
ready.
actually, and we did this thing. I brought a similar straw, not the exact one I gave you, but that's good to keep in your glove box, by the way. Do you have it there in your car?
I don't. I confess.
You're going to need it if you don't have it on you. Okay, so
Levi.
I have this filter that can filter out 99.99999% of all things that could be in water. The people
two
who
more nines I
invented
needed
it,
to add to that.
the people who invented it, they took it to like Bolivia or somewhere, and literally that was their only supply of water was through that. So if they would drink standing water in a puddle in the street, sewage, anything, it can clean it and fine.
Oh,
So we did this thing,
sewage,
remember at
too
Passion
far.
City, and I had them go to this like gross lake and fill up water, and it was literally the grossest thing you've ever seen. But I filtered it and drank it right in front of them, and it was just the idea of it's not what in life happens in life happens to you; it's what you choose to filter it through. And obviously, the way you and I believe is we have this lens of faith, so you can face pain. You know, you guys have gone through hardship. We've faced loss and difficulty, but be able to filter it through the lens of God's good, even when life's bad, and just that it's a high impact illustration.
That is. Yeah. So I'll keep it in my glove box.
Suck some toilet water out of a cup in front of your church
Keep
and
it on
report
my
back to
Bible,
me.
too, in case I need a good sermon illustration too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good thought. And we did put toilet water too.
we did.
Oh man. Now you've taken up
Wow.
jiu-jitsu, and you told me that that's been helping you in some
Yep.
of the mental games that you're going through and some of the difficult things. Would you want to share a little bit about that?
It is. Yeah. So I work with a performance psychologist, and one of the things he encouraged me to do, it was some assignment to find something that for about an hour at a time gets my heart rate up above 135 or so beats a minute, and then puts me in an uncomfortable place. And so his suggestions were things like mountain climbing, which is pretty hard to do
In
the hills of
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Yeah, he's an adventurer. And so what I tried for a long time, or I talked about, it's kind of funny, for a long, long time. Hey, I've always wanted to take up jiu-jitsu. And so Bobby Grunwald was working with my coach and said, hey, I've found a guy to do jiu-jitsu. You want to go with me and try some classes? I said, sure, I'll go. And so Bobby went twice, then he quit, and he totally set me up. It was a total 100% setup. And it stuck with me. I've been doing it now for 9 months, 10 months. I like it. I like being this age and getting thrown around on a mat. It feels kind of barbaric in a good way. And the fact that my body can take it and show back up and I haven't gotten injured is fun. And then it's just a really technical, ridiculously technical sport in 100 ways I didn't realize. And so I know that your daughter does it too, but you know, a simple move might have 13 pieces to it. A grip here, grab this part of the shoulder, grab the gi, start your hip silent shrimp, kick a leg up, pull it in tight, wrap your arm. You know, so it's mentally, it's a great mental distraction and a great physical exertion. And I like both those things at this point.
A distraction and the exertion. Do you have any idea the caloric toll it takes on you to do an hour of jiu-jitsu?
I would say that all I can tell you is that I hadn't played tennis. And, you know, of course I was a competitive player, and I went out and played against a guy that normally when I'm out and he plays every day, he will wind me and put me on the side. And this time I had he was exhausted and I was ready to keep going. So I feel like I was in way better shape doing this.
Wow.
In the early days, it's embarrassing to say, but I went for a hard 3-minute roll, I would be gasping, feeling like I was going to die. Now I can do 7 or 8 5-minute rolls and, get up and still walk the next day and drive myself home. Whereas before it was hard to drive home. I was so exhausted.
Oh
Wow. It would be
So
interesting to
intense.
see a fitness tracker, the result of the strain on your system. You know, obviously you can't wear an Apple Watch or a Fitbit when you're doing jiu-jitsu, but Whoop sells a bicep cuff that you can put your Whoop strap inside your bicep that is allowed if in jiu-jitsu, because under your gi it can't snag anybody. That would be really fascinating to hear.
Yeah.
because to me, an hour and a half of tennis is one of the highest exertion things, like way more, exponentially more than just me in the gym. Like my, 0 to 15 might be like a 4 on like a good workout, and then go play tennis for an hour and a half, and it's like a 13 or a 15 on their rating scale. So it would be interesting what jiu-jitsu does to your body.
And it's all what you get used to as well. Like if you do tennis enough for an hour and a half, then you get used to it, and you go play basketball. It's a different, so it's just different. So my body is adapting. Even I'm not as big, my muscles are leaner, and I don't, it's because I'm doing less time in the gym and more time on the mats. But
and the more you do it, the more smart you're getting at it. Because they say it's kind of like chess, right? Jiu-jitsu
it's like chess. Yeah. I mean, you really shouldn't wear out. You should be able to do 8 5-minute rolls. Someone good can do 15 and not wear out because they're not going as hard. It's more like a little bit more like ballet than it is like you really want to go slow and let your body weight do the work. And that's super counterintuitive to anybody, especially somebody that you want to think you're strong and you want your strength to be your friend. And it is your friend, but it's not your first strategy. It's more technique.
That's incredible.
But anything that this is the first thing that I've taken on that's new and different, both physically and mentally in a while. And so I would just encourage, anybody to find something, seasonally in life that pushes you out of the comfort zone. And it doesn't have to be, you're fighting on the mats. It could be you're learning to do something with your hands or your mind, or even, becoming great at puzzles or anything, gardening. So something that disrupts your normal rhythms and routines and pushes you in some ways is super helpful.
It's funny that you should mention that puzzles. Hugh Jackman, he says the number one thing he does after an acting performance, especially Broadway, he would finish and he could come home and he would do a puzzle. Him and his wife would sit there and just build a puzzle. And they would actually, I guess there's services where you can take a photo of your own and turn it into a puzzle. And they would love to take a picture of their backyard or of their kids and just sit there and make puzzles.
I love that.
It. Yeah, it's great.
Do you do anything? Do you have other bizarre hobbies like that?
I don't think so. This isn't a hobby, but we do feel like this is one of the keys to our overall health and well-being. Is Amy and I do lots and lots and lots of walks together.
I love that.
And so there's something about being together side by side. She likes to get in your face and talk, like face to face, and makes me a little more uncomfortable. But when I can get side to side, I can talk about anything for a long time. And then they say that just being outside where there's no ceiling, like one of the biggest things you do for depression or suicidal people is take a walk with somebody else outside. There's something about all that together. So I feel like that's one of the, and again, that's the walk isn't the key, but it's the consistency of something we enjoy together. That's a big, big part of our marital success, I think, as we work through a lot of stuff. We dream together, we problem solve, we laugh, we fight. We've even gotten a couple fights walking, and tend to work through it by the time you get home. So that's
amazing.
Anything that's consistent in your life that adds value, those things, you tend to, people like, you do date nights, and then one day you think, well, our marriage is good, we don't need to do date nights. And then you go, why isn't our marriage good? You want to find those things that are contributing to anything that matters to you, and then really work to keep those rhythms working,
Hilarious. Right. Yeah, same thing people would do, like church attendance, reading the Bible. I'm doing good, I need that. And then you end up, you stop doing the thing that was helping
Exactly.
you.
Yeah, so this is, you guys are living it out. And so I think, you guys are an example to us of what it looks like love each other and prefer each other. And so, you're doing it. And so these little walks and little things are big successes because you're winning.
Yeah, no, you really are. And, your 30 years of marriage, that's a great metaphor. Just that you never stopped walking together.
Yeah.
Walking. My mind goes to, how long are the walks? How many days a week are you doing them?
Yeah. During good weather times, it's, probably four days a week. And then the walks we usually do about a 3-mile walk just because that's the rhythm we like. And then, we go pretty slow. So it's about a 45-minute, nice slow walk, an hour if we're stopping to see things. And we stop to see weird things, man. There's a lot you've been to where I live. There's a lot of weird things to see.
Snakes and.
Oh yes. Lots of snakes and wild animals. And yeah, we have bobcats. We've seen 2 mountain lions here in 19 years. We've got wild hogs. We've got so many deer. It's ridiculously dangerous. And of course, all the normal stuff. But
So you've
the
seen
wild hogs are crazy.
you've seen 2 mountain lions.
Are they feral? I don't like the word feral, by the way.
They're
It's a gross word.
the mountain lions are super rare to spot. We actually saw one. We were doing a video shoot out here, and then we're about 90% sure we saw one crossing the driveway late at night because of the way the tail was. It could have been a bobcat, but looked way too big. But
That's
they're
scary to me
really,
because they sneak up, like they're the hunters, so they're sneaking up on.
they're not that, it's interesting that of all the animals, the dangerous one out here is the deer, because they'll run into your car. And so you really have to be super careful. You see them every day driving down my driveway every day. And then the hogs, they chased Joy on a 4-wheeler one time. If you can imagine that. They will
They're
attack.
super hairy, right? They're real hairy, gross things.
They're scary looking. Yeah, you stay away from them. And then the mountain lions and the bobcats, they're hunting animals, and evidently you don't want to meet one with a cub or something, but that's what you call them, a cub, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cub.
You wouldn't want to meet one with a cub, but they tend to, it's pretty rare to hear about an attack anywhere.
Interesting.
So I don't worry about them, but copperheads, yes.
Yeah, snakes, because your snakes are poisonous.
They're everywhere here, yes. Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, so 4 walks a week, 45 minutes, 3 miles. That's incredible. And here, 30 years, I was just thinking about that as I was reading you have this new book out, Winning the War in Your Mind. I'm holding it, those on video can see. But what's touching
It's beautiful,
about this,
by the way. I love the white and the gold and the black.
Yeah, tell me about the creation process. Did you guys, how many different covers were there before you landed on this one?
Oh gosh, I would think we did. This one took more than normal. I bet we did 18, 20 covers. Designs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Sometimes, have
So
you had
pretty.
some books? I mean, this is what number book 16 for you?
Yeah,
I think it
16,
is.
I think, yeah.
Book 16.
Wow.
How many of those 16 did you go with the first comp you saw, or was there only ever one comp? Did that ever happen to you?
No, there were several. I would say Christian Atheist was the first one. It was like, yeah, that one's done. I think Soul Detox might have been that way. It's hard to remember because they kind of blur together, but
Yeah.
the titles, that those take time, and we'll spend months and months, as you know, banging titles and subs back and forth. And that one was one of those. We had a bunch of different titles that almost made it. But at the end of the day, I like that one a lot.
It's funny how you can agonize over it. Yeah,
we've done it with you all. Yeah, we've had lots of trips where we're fleshing out your titles,
playing subtitle ping pong or title ping pong. Yeah, but then every once in a while one comes right away. Like my next one, the subtitle instantly and the title same way. Never considered anything else beside that, and publisher loved it, which is rare, of course. The ones you love, they don't. I haven't announced it yet, so that one's still
I was
trying
to bait you to tell me that's
not going to happen.
You had a chance.
Winning the War in Your Mind, change your thinking, change your life. You have knives, you have clubs, you have arrows,
Swords,
you have swords, you
machetes. No, not machetes.
You have a lot of
daggers.
Different things, even a scimitar. I think that's a scythe.
No, what's this?
That is a wicked tool of torture. I think they disemboweled William Wallace with that thing. What is that? It is a vile weapon.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even look that closely at that. I didn't realize there were weapons of torture.
And they're all aimed. They're all aimed at the brain.
Yes.
So tell me, what do you think of when you see this image?
I need to know. I think a counseling session, right? Yeah.
I think that's what's happening here. It's just turned into that.
Yeah, we tried to create something that did show a little bit of emotion of how there is a battle in the mind, and it's odd that the timing of this coming out kind of in the era our world is in today. I just didn't realize. I knew how much I needed it in my mind, but I didn't realize just how much this season has taken a toll on otherwise really normally healthy people that are going, my mind's a wreck right now. And so,
well, I want to talk about that more, but I want to finish the thought about Amy, because she wrote the last chapter. And I found so much about this book to be helpful, but I was really touched. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't read it, but she basically, I'm going to paraphrase, says, I just want to add my voice here to say how proud I am of my husband's journey at reclaiming his mind from the negativity. And she just basically pops in to go like, hey, just so you know, what you've read isn't just him saying you should do this. This is what I've seen really change his life.
Beautiful.
And I just was like, I get emotional just hearing her saying that. And so I just feel like that just speaks volumes of the work you're willing to do. And I've watched you for many years, both before I knew you and now as your friend, which I still pinch myself that we're your friends, that you really do want to improve yourself and you really do leave these messages out. And like Amy says, this really is something that you've prioritized and it has made a difference for you.
Yeah, it made me emotional too to hear her say that, because that she knows you kind of real success in life is when the people that you're closest to, believe in you and trust you and see any kind of spiritual progress. And so she knows the secret wins that most people don't know, and she also knows the secret losses that people wouldn't know. And so she's walked with me through some of the kind of inner battles I've had to deal with in my mind, and it has been. It's sometimes people think we just pump out content and books and it's just whatever they think, and this one is really born out of a personal journey of needing to win the war in my mind, and it's one that was not an easy war to win, meaning it. I've heard you talk about even the science behind the brain of our neural pathways. When the more you think the wrong kind of thought, the easier it is to keep thinking it. And so I had a lot of those. Sometimes what creates outward success is inward trauma, that it can manifest itself in ways that are either productive or dysfunctional. But at the root of it, any kind of trauma produces dysfunction, even if it's productive dysfunction. And so I have a lot of that, meaning like the OCD, like counting the drops. There's a lot of weird stuff in my life like that works for me on an outward level, but inwardly can chew me up to pieces. And so that's a lot of what I was working on in my mind and finding a lot of progress with it.
Well, thank you for your obedience to write it and to pour out your heart into this. And I know it's going to help so many people, like you said, who have been, especially in recent days, struggling in this way. And I know I think everyone to some extent has, obviously we all have a war within, but the anxiety and just the inward battle. And so thank you so much for pouring your heart out into this.
Yeah. Where was the genesis of it? Because you, as you mentioned, this was, of course, long before the pandemic. This book was already kind of in process, working on it, not having any idea the exacerbation of mental health issues and people's, kind of like being stuck, feeling lonely, feeling anxious, feeling panicky, So where did you really begin to get the fire in your belly for this project, and even just your own personal story going through it?
Yes, I would say I've done 3 rounds of counseling. The first one was when I was in my 20s, and as a workaholic, the denomination I was in forced me into it, and I laughed all the way through it and thought it was stupid. Second one was a little bit later when I realized I was working too much and not being as attentive to my kids. And so that was by choice. The third one was more of things were working, but I wanted to do it from a more healthy perspective. And that's kind of what I've been working with the performance psychologist. And in it, it was kind of weird, but what was to dig up some of the internal voices that were drivers for me. And although they would drive me to do what you might call a high production, I was doing it in a really unhealthy way. And so what I wanted to do is find out what are those kind of dominant wrong thought patterns. And then, science would say you're going to, rewire your brain. God would say you're going to renew your mind. And so I went on a journey to try to renew my mind. And what I found was it was really ridiculously hard to do. Meaning, if you've believed something for 35, 40 years, it's really hard to unbelieve that. And so I got to where I just made real, what I call like emotionally scriptural statements that I wanted to say over and over and over and over again. And that's kind of what I help the reader do in the book, is find out where you're believing anything that's destructive or toxic in your mind, and then identifying what is the scriptural truth, and then creating a statement that helps you kind of emotionally drive that into your mind. And it's been a period of, several years of kind of saying these same types of things over and over again. but I really genuinely have a different viewpoint of life now, where at first I'd look up and say, things are going to be bad and what have we lost? And it's going to be hard and I have to do this. Now waking up saying, my God is with me. He's for me. We're going to be productive today. It's going to be fun. I like these people. My life is blessed. And it's, now I went from being dissatisfied a lot, feeling guilty and ashamed of not producing more, to feeling full of gratitude and seeing the goodness of God all over. And I wish I could say, it's like, hey, work with me for 30 days and you're going to get there. But I can't make that promise. What I'm going to say is work on renewing your mind with truth for 3, 4, 5 years. And I promise you'll see progress. But in most cases, it's not an overnight fix, but it is fixable. And that's really good news.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that
That's
whole idea
beautiful.
that synapses that fire together wire together. So you're saying like when that same stimuli happens, now you're still going to see blue vans as which is, by the way, so funny. People will get that as they read it, but and you're going to have the same stress response physiologically speaking. But when you choose to then introduce a new routine, it's then going to become over time that go-to reaction.
Yes,
that's phenomenal.
You said it well.
I mean, there's so many things you're talking about in this book. You're talking about cognitive biases, neural pathways, the amygdala. You're talking about rumination. I mean, these are things, and you have science, you have studies. There's so much in this that but what's great about it is that you're also showing, hey, this is what David says. This is what Paul said. This is what, and you're not like, oh, here's the scripture and then here's the psychology. You're showing actually it's great because a lot of these issues, they're actually saying the same thing. And you're showing that God, who invented science, who created the world, he put these things that we're only now even discovering in medicine. These things were scripturally all along there.
Yeah, I love that part about just the teaching, which is, sometimes when you talk about science, people say, well, like, why aren't you being Christian? Like, well, God created science. And,
Hello.
and what we find about the brain is the way God created it really is fascinating. And scripture is, it's super clear, super powerful. And it teaches us to work with the God design of our brain. And the more you kind of look at it all holistically together, the more it makes sense. And it kind of takes scripture and it takes it out of just the church world and it brings it to your Monday or your Tuesday or your home or your workplace, wherever you live. And it shows you how, how you can take God's word and what actually happens when you have an amygdala hijack, when, you have an emotional reaction, and how the prefrontal cortex, was God created, can capture, take the thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. Like, you can visualize my prefrontal cortex is grabbing my amygdala hijack and saying, no, that's not true. Let's have what is true. I'm choosing what's true. And so I like that. And we're going to create a new pathway in our brain. So from whenever I think this thought, I'm going to replace it with this truth. And I'm going to think it over and over and over and over again. And I'm not going to be conformed to the patterns of this world, but I'm going to be changed, be different, be transformed by the renewing of my mind. And so it's both fascinating to me. It's encouraging. It's spiritually strengthening. It's empowering, and it's a game changer. It's like Amy said. She said, "My husband's different today, and I needed to be different." There, and with some work, God has, He's changed my perspective through my mind.
It's interesting. A lot of people looking on are probably, maybe who have listened to your journey, and as people read this book, I think what our listeners who turn to Amazon and grab it are going to find is that you are taking this incredibly seriously. And, with incredible vulnerability. I mean, you open up about panic attacks and anxiousness, and you talk about how some of your family of origin stuff led to you often turning to the idol of money for security instead of God, and just the journey on that sort of stuff. And you're taking this all so seriously, which, is incredible because here you are, extremely successful by any definition, but especially within our world, so respected as a pastor, as a leader. And yet you're saying, I'm doing pretty much an overhaul I'm popping the hood, and I'm not just putting a quart of oil in. I'm having them take all the belts out. I'm stripping this thing down to the, basically to the frame and rebuilding this engine. And I find that, the kind of work you're doing, a lot of people would think would be an early Christian needing to do, but you're saying, I got this far, but I want to go even further. Like Paul said, I want to apprehend all that God has for me. And so I think that intensity is really, really, really inspiring.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Well, you guys are a great example of that too. There's just life happens. I mean, you've been through extraordinary personal pain and loss, and you've had opportunities to do things that most people dream about. And you mix all that together, and it's really hard to have, it's hard to always have a healthy outlook. You can get lost in your pain or drown in your success, or be too aggressive with opportunities and not know how to say no. And so I don't know anyone that goes through a 10-year period that doesn't need to open up the hood and look inside and say, what have I been taking along in this? What have I picked up along the way that's not healthy? Where do I need to flush things out? Where do I need to tweak it? And so I feel like, getting counseling, coaching, helping, any kind of help is not a sign of weakness. A professional athlete has a coach, right? If a professional athlete has
a whole room of coaches, a
whole room of coaches, why would we think that we are above that?
Yes,
as
that's
moms,
so good.
Dads, as a best friend, as pastors, as a small group leader, as somebody who wants to be a light in a really dark world, right?
Yeah. There's a lot that made me laugh in this book, but this is page 155. You said, my stress is not just about hours and workload. I don't just have to write messages. They have to be creative and relevant, all of them. And then you said, this is so great. Keeping things fresh is not as easy as it sounds. And here's the reality. Every time I read the Bible, nothing in it has changed. The world is created. Adam and Eve sin. The earth floods and the ark still floats. The bush burns and the sea parts. Every Christmas, the Virgin Mary has a baby, and his name is Jesus. Every Easter, the tomb is empty. And it's a chapter where you're kind of talking about the challenge of, and I think, we're, of course, pastors and authors, but the person listening to this who has to come up with an advertising campaign for Subway, and has to outdo Jared, although, I don't know if Jared got canceled or not, so if we're allowed to talk about him or not. It's hard to keep track of who's been canceled. It's Mandalorian's out now, right? Everything's been canceled. But, the point is, when you have to say the same thing in a new way, that can create just as much stress as any other thing in life. I would love to hear you speak to that a little bit.
Well, I think it's funny that you think it's funny because you know that. And I know there's a lot of Christians going, but that's the Bible. That's the word of God. And they're going, after
but you're 30, not preaching it every
after 30
Christmases later.
And then she was a virgin, and may it be done unto me according to my word. And that's all I got.
You'll never guess what these 3 visitors brought, everybody. You'll never guess. One was gold. Yeah, exactly.
I know. And it's,
you guys.
Yeah, there's actually a lot in the Christmas story, and then but then it really is hard to keep fresh. And then sometimes people say, "Well, that sounds like an old sermon." Like going, "Yeah," and the tomb was empty 3 Easters ago, and it still is. So, on that end, what I try to do is several things. One is I try to just trust the story and remind myself that even the same gospel story is always powerful.
Yes.
And so
Amen.
Not put too much pressure on myself to keep it creative, but at the same time to try to come back to it with new eyes every time. Yeah. And I try really hard to pretend like I don't know what I'm about to read. And that's one reason I like to read in weird translations, even ones that are maybe not even completely accurate, just because, like more devotional ones.
Yeah.
Because it shocks your system a little bit. And
Definitely.
And I want to try to pretend like, what is it like for someone who does hear this story, that's never heard it before, that doesn't know the ark, floats and David beats Goliath and on and on.
Yeah, but that can put that kind of self-imposed pressure to communicate something new and fresh from it. It is taxing over time. And that's just one example of a lot of different things can be kind of, the sides of success that you perhaps didn't even realize were going to be there waiting for you. The reward of speaking is more opportunities to speak. And then eventually, like you said, you can end up accepting too much and this can suffer here. And this is a really vulnerable look at what complexity comes your way as you grow and the reward is complexity oftentimes for success. And I commend you for writing it. I think The format is refreshing in that there are some very engaging interactive sections after the first section, there's the audit, and then you give a lot of space for reflection, more so than probably most books, almost to the point that you've pretty well are giving away a free curriculum alongside it, because after every chapter, you lead people through serious exercises. I can't imagine you could go through this and give yourself to the process and not see some improvement.
Yeah.
No, I'm hoping people take the work seriously, because it does take work, and that's why I'm excited. A lot of people are doing it in groups, and but I appreciate just your generosity with it, and obviously your time in it. That means a lot to me personally, because I know it's you can't read every book that comes across your desk.
It was selfish. I've got monkeys in my head. I needed to get them out. I went to war. I grabbed the sword and I was like, stab, 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 stab.
Yeah,
that was
you took the torture weapon.
I used this sickle scythe, and I needed to go to blows. It just felt so squishy when this brain gets hit with these other things. It's just going to squish.
Squishy?
No, I'm saying, thinking about the knife stabbing that brain, it felt squishy to me, because I pictured them actually making contact.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, that's gross.
I got more work to do. I'm going to go back to chapter 12. Go back to chapter 12.
Go get your straw and drink some toilet water.
Yes, I will immediately. I do want to talk to you before we lose focus here completely, a little bit about a subject of which you're a mentor to me in, and that is when it comes to being a good steward, of course, not only living generously with the kingdom in mind and helping people and doing good. And you and Amy you lead the way in what she does for women, abused women shelters and that kind of stuff, and helping people get on their feet. You with church planning, you have a whole nonprofit you do that helps pastors and churches that are going through either a reboot or a planting or getting into a building or whatever. But you also are really smart when it comes to investments, and you were vulnerable in your book to show the dark side of that, the shadow side of that it comes from a scarcity mentality. And at Applewood, you need to let your daughter get the apple fritters, right? You had to learn that the hard way. But also, inside joke, if you haven't read the book, you're like, what is he talking about? But the good side of it, I wanted to pick your brain on a little bit for those listening. Any mentality that has helped you in setting your kids up for success when it comes to their savings accounts, or, them saving for college or their first car, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so one of the challenges, just like with our education system, is we can teach kids about history or math or science or whatever, but we rarely teach them about how credit card interest is their enemy, not their friend. And, what they typically learn is oftentimes not productive when it comes to finances. So, there's a lot of layers to it. It's hard to teach what you don't know. And so a lot of people, we've been programmed, and I kind of grew up in a home where debt is good, and you're always going to have a car payment, and you're always going to have a house payment, and you're always going to have a credit card payment. Just make sure you make the minimum payment. And that doesn't work for long. So first of all, it has to start with an understanding, just if we are parenting, what is more healthy finances. And the goal is not just to have more money. The goal is to honor God with whatever he gives you. And so it's a driving spiritual principle that if you're faithful with a little, he trusts you with more. And he seems to be pretty, go out and be fruitful and multiply. That means make more of whatever you have. The parable of the talents is pretty striking. Like, well done, my good and faithful servant, you multiplied. Take what was from the other one, and he calls him not just a lazy servant, but wicked, like evil, wicked, and lazy, if you didn't do anything with what he gave you. So what I want to do is teach my kids the spiritual end. And then there's how. And we just have talks around our table all the time about what's wise and what's not wise. And so they just know. And we try to help unpack. And it seems kind of cruel, but hey, just because your friends live in a nice house doesn't mean they own that house. It doesn't mean they're not paycheck to paycheck. And there's some people that don't live in a really nice house, and they actually have more financial margin. And why do you think that is? And so we help them see that kind of thing. And then what I do is I have them all read certain books, and not just financial books, but financial books are a part of it. And books around their interest. And I pay them $100 to do it, but they have to come to me, and we do a report on each chapter, and we talk it through. And so a real simple one on the financial end is just kind of the old classic Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which, I'm sure you probably read, but it's, there's a way of thinking about multiplying and taking risk and abundance versus scarcity and or the poor dad mindset, which is go to work, go to school, get a job, work for somebody else. So we take them through that kind of stuff, and then I just reward anytime I see any kind of good decisions, and it takes with them. They all now see, my married kids would never not pay off a credit card. In fact, most of them don't have it. They have debit cards instead. They're never going to have a car payment. We're going to make one to ourselves and live beneath our means. And we're going to give more than 10%. And if the good news is, if you start them early, they can do it a lot easier than what a lot of people had that didn't start early. But you want to model it, and then you want it to be a part of the conversation, which is just wasn't healthy financial dialogue is not a part of most dinner table conversations. And I would suggest, since it's such a big part of life, it should be. Wow. Just as we would talk about our spiritual life and relationships and marriage and church and friends, we would talk about honoring God with the resources he trusts us with. And if you keep those conversations there, it's an intimate subject. And then it's interesting how that leads to other intimate subjects, which is dating and purity and all that kind of thing. So keeping those lines of communication really open with our kids means a lot.
Yeah. Wow. That's really good.
If you don't mind, what other books would there be in the syllabus? Have you ever posted online any of the Groeschel family book syllabus?
No, I pick them all for each individual kid or son-in-law. And so I do the same thing. And I don't have daughter-in-laws yet, so I haven't tested that. But it depends on who they are, and pick specific ones based on their interests. So I'll try to do a book that's based on. I kind of alternate. One is based on their interest, and then the next one is based on what I feel like they need. Another real simple, common one I have almost all of them do is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And that's just shows how small, consistent decisions over time lead up to success. So that's one. And then there's a lot of them we do like I've had a lot of my kids do How to Win Friends and Influence People. Mm-hmm. I've had them do. I've had several of them go through your book on the first book you wrote, the
Eyes of a Lion.
Eyes of a Lion, to know how to minister to people. And so I'll do a lot of the kind of what I consider kind of classic Christian books. And then I had some of them do The Power of Moments. I had a couple of the more sophisticated financial ones do the book on negotiation, Never Split the Difference. I had some of them that are interested in real estate do some with me on real estate, just to get their minds around some different things. And then we've done, I bought my first rent house years and years ago when I was in college by accident. And so I have them look at properties with me. If we're, what do we have? What do we try to make on them? And just make that a regular part of the conversation, which is if we're going to create and add value anywhere in the world. And then saying, being wise financially, though people will criticize that a lot. Like, that's not something to be embarrassed about. That's something that's God honoring. And anytime we can help people, it's because we've created the margin to do it. And so it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that you don't want to talk about. It's a part of being a faithful child of God, is taking care of what he's given you, your body, your mind, your friendships, your soul, your purity, your finances. It's holistic.
That's incredible.
Yes.
And
thank you for sharing that. It's helpful for us right now.
Genius. And it matches up to what I'm, wanting to build together. You just want to build some sort of a framework as a parent that outside of school, obviously teachers though have this educational plan to get your kid to 18 and what they want them to know. And yet as parents, it's our responsibility to help shape our kids' vision of what the good life is, and then hopefully help them understand the tools at their disposal to get to those things. And so I like that a lot. So you said they would, after each chapter, give some sort of a little report. It was chapter by chapter, not just when they got to the end of the book.
Yeah. So like right now, Joy she has shown what I'd call, she's got financial interest, meaning how do I, she's 16. She wants to eat out with her friends more. She wants to buy an outfit or whatever. So she's working more. She's babysitting. And now, like, how am I going to put this together? So she's on like, she's done over half of Rich Dad Poor Dad with me. So she'll read a chapter and then we'll come down and we'll spend 20, 30 minutes talking about it. And so she's like, oh my gosh. And I made some little investments for her when she was young. And so now she's at the part where I'll say, look, here's what I put in years ago and here's how it's grown. And see, your money's actually working for you. And they're small investments, but now it comes to life. We're going, oh my gosh, I've got that. And like, yeah, that's there for your college or to help, if you want to buy, get a down payment on a house one day. And so she gets real excited about it. It's like, so, my money's working for me. And when I'm talking about small, meaning like her big dividend check was $36 on one investment, so it's not big, but it's that when you're 16 years old, $36 sounds like a lot. And
but for her to see that and to be involved in it.
Yes. It's the principle, not the amount. The amounts are small, but the principle is real.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Like, because obviously if you go through Ramsey or whatever, you find out that, and Rich Dad Poor Dad's the same, you're going to see that, if you start when you're 18 investing in savings versus if you start when you're 40. So when we had Rachel Cruz on the podcast, we were asking her what sort of strictures did Dave Ramsey, put in place early on that would help her even as a young person begin saving for her retirement, or how much of college was he willing to pay for, or what, how did she have to buy her own first car, or, those sorts of things. And I'm always interested in, just strategies for that kind of optimization. So do you have, do you have any sort of, out of the 6 kids you've had, like, we did it this way with buying cars for them or them buying cars, or is there a percentage, or, what have you learned on those things?
I don't think there's any right or wrong. Just the fact that a 16-year-old can get a car, we have to acknowledge that's in the very privileged category, right? So there'd be a lot of people that, that wasn't possible for me when I was 16. So,
I bought my own car too.
Yeah. I didn't even do that. So I was 17 and a half. And that sounds like, oh my gosh, that was really late. Well, for a lot of people, the idea of getting their kid a car is impossible. So we have to acknowledge that's, we're incredibly privileged to even talk about it. With my kids, what we did was half and half. And I liked that because I liked for them to have some skin in the game. And then I like for them to, have some control over how nice of a clunker do you want, right? And so they worked to raise half their money, and they had generous gifts from grandparents for birthday and Christmas, so it wasn't too hard for them to get $3,000 or $4,000 saved. But I did want them to recognize, you got some in this as well, and then helping them get a more reliable car first out was, I felt like bringing half to the table was good for our model.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are all really helpful things. I guarantee everyone listening is just like, really grateful, because we're we all want to do the right things, both for our own finances, but then also to help set our kids up with the right perspective on money and all that stuff. Well, goodness gracious, we've taken a lot of your time. Is there any other questions you have for?
No, I mean, we could probably keep going, but I just wanted to tell you, Pastor Craig, just how thankful I am for you and for your wife and for your whole family. Just how much you guys mean to us and how you really are leading the way. I know for so many, but just personally, we're just so grateful for you and how you love the Lord and how you love your wife and how you love your family and how you lead in all those ways so well. And we're following your lead, and we're so grateful for you. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. We count you as our dearest friends. With anytime we invite someone to go on a 2-night trip away with us, that's in a special category. People we really want to be with, and we invite you guys all the time because we really think the world of you and love your ministry, love your kids, and every minute with you is a special one.
Okay, now lightning round before we close. That was all touching. Okay. Everyone's crying. We all just had this great big hug. Okay, now the goodbye's over, so we can at least just end with a. I was on a call with a couple of our leaders at the church, and I was mentioning that we were interviewing you today, and so I said, give me a couple questions, and I'll rapid fire them, and just kind of off the flow. It could be one sentence, one word, or as long as you want. We can go on till the cows come home, or till the raccoons get into your car again, or the rats in your air conditioner. That was
more private book jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. If you haven't read Winning the War in Your Mind, you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. Actually, those have popped up in some of your sermons too, so people have got them. Oh, you also have an extraordinary leadership podcast we haven't even mentioned.
Oh, gosh.
The Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. How many? You got to be hundreds of episodes?
No, I don't think so. I've only done it for 5 years.
Kins, how many episodes of Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast are there? We're going to find this out right now. Okay.
I'm going to say like 85, I'm guessing.
What has been your
90.
favorite? You said 80?
85 or 90.
85, 90, I'm guessing, yeah.
Okay. Well, what's been your favorite episode off the top of your head? I mean, that's a stupid question. It's like your favorite sermon, right? But
it's kind of ridiculous that like a lot of times I would say overall it didn't even perform well, but I like the one on centered leadership. I like that idea. I think people underestimated the quality of that content.
Take another listen.
Take another listen, people. Centered leadership. Yeah. Hey, when people come up to you and say, this podcast really helped me rethinking what's the most common podcast episode people refer to?
I don't have one they refer to. Oddly enough, the first one I did on the 6 types of leaders years and years ago, the first one seemed to come up, maybe because the first one I listened to, but that one comes up the most, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the first one out the gate, it came out so strong.
Maybe so.
There you go. Okay. And then that podcast you've done as well. You've featured some high capacity leaders on there as well. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite interview you've had on this personally, perhaps even for you, not even just the content, just it was a real joy for you to have an interview with this person?
I would say John Maxwell was because he was the first person I listened to on leadership back when he had a cassette of the month club. So I think interviewing him and having him say he listens to my podcast and learned something was kind of like playing basketball and having LeBron tell you your shot looked good or something. So that was
dang.
Wow.
Good. Wow. That did lead to one of the questions I wanted to ask, and that was who to you is a mentor? This could be non-church or it could be church. Is there a LeBron James, besides obviously you mentioned James Maxwell, that to you still is someone who you consistently look to? It could be business, It could be whatever.
Yeah. So when I think of mentors, I like to think categories, because whenever someone says they have one mentor, how do you have one that fits all sizes?
Yeah.
And so we have different categories for kind of the business end of things. There's a guy that no one would have heard of, but he's been a friend for years. His name's Mike Liddell, and it helps me there. Oddly enough, for marriage, there's a couple that no one would have heard of either, called Rich and Anna years ago, that just taught us, we watched them learn how to have a good marriage. And so I'd say different categories like that. There's inspirational leadership, people I read, podcasts, but like honest to goodness, every time I'm with you, I walk away with different ideas. You've always read something, you've got something to try, someplace you've been. And so I would say there are people that add value and stretch you consistently. And those people are the types of people I like to be around.
Wow. Who's a hero you've never met that you really like, man, I consistently learn from this person, like that you would put in that category that you still have not yet met?
There's no one in that category. The one that was in that category that got checked off before he passed away was Billy Graham. That was, we got to go visit him at his house. And I have never been as in awe of a human being. It was the totality of the house. You have to understand it had not been updated in probably 30 years, on top of a hill. And it was just, the whole atmosphere was like going, this guy cares nothing about anything but eternity. And so it was humbling. Outside of that, I've been blessed to meet pretty much everybody that I would want to. And maybe
what about Elon Musk? I mean, there's got to be somebody.
I would enjoy meeting Elon, but I didn't wake up thinking about meeting him today. I think
the direct quote was, "I didn't wake up thinking about Elon Musk today."
No, I think the benefit
did.
of the world, the benefit of the world we live in, is that you've got access to him in so many ways. Like you're just one step away. You can listen to Ferris interview him, and I like that.
Rogan just interviewed him.
Rogan interview him, and so we've got access to, you can learn so much from them from not having to be there. So I think in my mind that has, and the fact that we get to be around, incredible people regularly at different kind of events, that takes the whole meeting intrigue away, and just I just enjoy hanging out with friends too.
There you go. Wow, I like that. Okay, lightning round, quick as they get. Knowing what you know now about how the pandemic has changed the world, or altered it at least, what would you, if you could go back into a time machine pre-pandemic and do some things differently, what would they be, or anything?
The work rhythms of it's like right now I'm only doing a weekend message once, and I used to do 6 at the same time. And so fewer reps on my body, and I would do that. I would do one weekend message earlier and save the wear and tear on my body.
That's good.
As a communicator or author, content creator, what's the most unexpected source of inspiration for creativity?
Anything disconnected from work, like jiu-jitsu or a walk with Amy, or a really good Netflix series. Anything that disconnects my mind reconnects it later to creativity.
Very good. Glassdoor has 2 years in a row considered Life.Church the best place to work in Oklahoma City, right?
In the country, yes.
In the country. Okay, yes. So it's bigger
Get
than
your
Oklahoma
facts
City.
straight.
I said city. You're like just the United States of America. So best place to work in the United States. What are we doing here,
Whoa.
Jenny? Let's go work at Life.Church.
All right, we're in.
We're just going to cross the fresh out, and we're there. Oh, we don't have to go anywhere. We just stay here. What is one thing actionable that someone could do today who leads an organization to make a better workplace culture?
Hire the right people that help create the culture. Meaning, like I almost said hire Jerry Hurley, but like I don't consider that my award. I consider it his award, because he wakes up every day thinking about creating the right culture, and it's super, super important to me. But it's the only thing he thinks about, not the only thing I think about. So it's always the right people. And anytime you have the wrong person, it costs you more than you realize, and you think it's going to be harder to get rid of them. And when you do reassign or remove a wrong person, you always wonder why I didn't do it earlier. So it's always people, and the people create the right systems and the right programs. And you're never trying to create like a leadership development culture. You're just trying to create a culture. You don't have a track of a program. It's culture, health, people, systems. It's just the basics over and over and over again. But
I would point people to your episodes on behavioral values. That was life-changing, those two episodes.
So good.
And I did interview Jerry after the first time that they gave us that award. And because I feel like so there's a good interview with him talking about.
Oh, I mean, I missed that one.
What he thinks about all the time. Yep.
Dang.
Love it.
Very good stuff. Okay. And then last one, we're sending you on your way. Having already, introduced the Bible to people's phones around the world with the YouVersion app, and Bobby Grunwald and everyone at the YouVersion team, under your leadership, what do you consider the next frontier? What's the new frontier that excites you the most, that you see, that gives you excitement?
I don't know. We didn't see that coming. And so here's the thing. People always say, like, what's your 5-year plan or whatever? And the answer is, I have no idea. I don't know. Our goal always is to create the margin, both emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, that when the opportunity comes up, we're ready to seize it. So we did not project that we would create the world's most influential Bible app. That never was on the radar. But what we did see was an opportunity that we thought we could fulfill and meet. And so I don't have a clue what it is. What I do think, though, honestly, what's pretty exciting to me is I think I may not see the next one. I think there may be a 22-year-old on my staff that does, or your staff that does. And I'm pretty dang excited about not having to be the one to come up with the next one.
Awesome.
we might be able to fund it or help it happen or come up with it, maybe. But at the same time, I don't feel like we have to. That there's a great generation that we're working with that may be smarter and better and faster. And so I'm super optimistic about the future, no matter who's coming up with the ideas.
Yes, that's a beautiful answer.
Dang. And the anticipatory leadership episode too, that's some good stuff on just even thinking that way.
Yeah, but we do, and you're right. Like there's a good book I just read called, gosh, I hate to do this to you. That's really worth reading.
No, don't you hate telling me about a great book? You
no,
shouldn't.
I hate The Future is Faster Than You Think. That's worth listening to. If you want to try to project what's coming, that one says our cars are flying
than you think.
Yeah, it's good. It may or may not be accurate, but it's the kind of book that breaks your rhythms of what you're projecting and makes you think exponentially about what's possible in the future.
Craig Groeschel, you are one of a kind. Jenny and I love you. Please give your family our love, and until we meet again, stay well.
Hey, you too. Love you guys.
Thank you so much for listening. And be sure to swing by LeviLusko.com to see what's going on in our world, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media. Jenny and Levi Lusko, out.